Jesse, are you ready for rapid fire?
I was born ready for rapid. I feel like this whole show has just been rapid fire. Just
It
bang.
kind of
Next
is.
question. Next question.
Kind of
Next question.
is.
Bang.
Right? I know. So we, of course, are debuting our new show theme called We In or We Out today. There were so many good questions. I had to kind of push some back for rapid fire because I knew, look at how long that it's taken us just to get to rapid fire at this point. So I've got more We In or We Out questions from the Champions Lounge that we're going to use for rapid fire questions tonight. So this one, within 3 years, Coach Freeman will have changed the national narrative that Notre Dame can't win the big, important games. We in or we out on that?
I'm going to have to say that we are out because I don't think that that's a large enough sample size for people to fully accept like that maybe that stigma is gone, right? I think that there will always be kind of an excuse, right? Like I don't think that Notre Dame winning, maybe if you win a national championship, but I don't see, just playoff berths or, just maybe a first round playoff win. I think it's going to take a lot because of who Notre Dame is. I think that they, the national media, whoever, they expect more out of Notre Dame. So it's going to take a lot to change that sort of stigma.
Jersey Bear is like coming at you right now. He's like, come on, Jesse. Come on. It's a good question. Joe said fans or media because there is a difference there because it's like you're going to have to do it repeatedly.
That's what I mean. I don't know if you like how much is it going to take of repeatedly to even kick it out of everyone's thought process anymore.
Right. Because even let's say you get to the 12-team playoff and you get to the semifinal. Well, what's going to happen with each round you go? The games get tougher. So I think the narrative is going to shift to some extent to, well, Notre Dame can win those first couple games. They can get to the playoff, but can they actually win playoff games?
Right.
And that kind of thing. Now, again, based on the quarterback they've got, based on the defense that they've got, that I think is going to continue to play at an elite level as long as Al Golden is here, based on the offense that I think is going to become elite with Mike Denbrock and the kind of quarterbacks and the kind of skill position talent that they're bringing in, I'm going to go against you, Jess, and I'm going to say I'm in on this one.
This is a lot. I think that people should really feel good about this because you don't just float up, good, feel-good answers. There's a lot that goes that you have less Vince in you.
That's right. That's exactly right. I have far less rose-colored glasses in me than our old buddy Vincenzo has. Look, they were very close, and I know close doesn't count, but they were very close to starting to shift that narrative. And then, like at the end of the, with the Ohio State game last year, it looked like it was finally going to happen. Like you're going to beat one of the current Titans in the sport of college football. And then, unfortunately, it just unraveled over the last 3.5 minutes of that game. But I think that because of all the factors that I just mentioned, I think that Notre Dame is knocking on the door right now. And what was the question again? Within 3 years, I do think that they are going to at least start to shift that narrative. Again, the thing about narratives is they can always change, right? The narratives always shift to meet whoever's criteria, that they want to talk about. Just like that stupid, top 30 ranking yesterday that we picked apart. It's like, okay, these are the reasons that I'm saying Notre Dame doesn't belong here. But then when you apply it to half the teams that the guy had in that top 30, well, he's not even applying the same criteria that he was talking about with Notre Dame. But that's what national narratives are all about. It's always going to suit the person who's talking about it. So I think that the narrative will at least start to shift, but I don't think it is going to fully be changed within the next 3 years. To do that, you're literally going to have to win a national championship, not just get to a national championship game.
Yeah, so you guys, all of you believe, I'm marking this down in my notes, Notre Dame's winning a national championship within 3 years.
Okay, next question. Both the Notre Dame football and women's basketball teams will make it to the Final Four this upcoming season. We in or we out?
Man, I did not see that one.
I think this might have been a late ad because there were some questions that got in later this afternoon that got thrown in there. So
we are 100% in. All you had to say was women's basketball team in Final Four, and I didn't have to hear anything else because I think that this roster this season was really freaking good, and it had a lot of injuries. It had a lot of players in and out, a lot of I guess what you would call synchronization, right? Like just because of the people coming in and out, it's nothing that you can or can't really control, right? So it's like different, rotating fives playing together, six, whatever the rotation might be. So you combine the talent of Olivia Miles, Anna Hidalgo. You add, this stud of a big. You have these key pickups in the transfer portal. You combine the fact that Notre Dame already plays outstanding defense. It's just like they almost got to the Elite Eight last season and the season before, and this roster is going to be way better. Not way better, but just better than those rosters. So I'm a big we in.
So hold it. I thought you started off on we out. This is football and women's basketball are in. So you're in with women's basketball, but are you in with football as well? I know you didn't get to see the question. Here's the question. Both the football and women's basketball teams will make it to the Final Four.
Yeah, I'm in on the football team as well.
I'm definitely in on the women's basketball team because I've been saying it all along. If they had been healthy last year, I felt like they had a legitimate shot of being a Final Four team last year. When you look at everything that they've added, getting Olivia Miles back, the whole kit and caboodle, they are a Final Four team this season. They're going to be one of the favorites all season to be a Final Four team. The men's is where it gets more difficult. And Vince and I were talking about, like what are the matchups going to look like? Who do you have to play along the way? Are you going to have, like what's all that going to look like? So I'm definitely in on the women. I am going to have to, I think that the football team. All right, I'm going to talk myself into it. I'll go, yes, we in. We in on both. Get a couple of wins, you're in the Final Four, right?
Yeah.
In on it.
Especially if that first game is at home.
It all rides, as I think someone already said, yep, there's Joe. It all rides on Riley Leonard's health because we are all fully confident. I think most of us are fully confident that Steve Angeli can go out there and beat 80% of the teams on the schedule. The question with Steve Angeli is how can he
even give him 90%.
Okay. How can he do against the elite teams on the schedule? That's what Riley Leonard can do. So, but if Leonard is healthy with the defense that Notre Dame has, I'll say yes. I'll say a Final Four team. Jeremiyah Love will have 12 total touchdowns this season in the regular season. We in or we out on that?
We are in. Audric Estime had 18 last season as a pure rusher. I see Jeremiyah Love being the workhorse back. Maybe not as much production as Audric Estime, but you combine the overall production that he will get at the wide receiver position. I think he will mix in a couple, receiving touchdowns, whether that be a screen. I don't know. I think he's going to find a way to get a couple receiving touchdowns. He definitely will have some rushing touchdowns. So give me a we are in because I think he is the best athlete on the entire offense, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, Andrew says in if you count receiving, and we're definitely counting receiving. We're saying total touchdowns. I think he's going to have, like at least 8 rushing touchdowns. And so that, all he needs then is 4 receiving touchdowns, which I think that he is going to get, with the elusiveness that he has and his ability that he showed this spring to go out and catch the ball. So I am in on Jeremiyah Love having at least 12 total touchdowns this season. Going back to what we were just talking about, Michael says Steve Angeli can't beat a top team, ? No, he can't. I'm sorry. If he's going to be check down Charlie, Michael, he can't beat a top team. He has to show better ability to read the defense, not get locked in on his primary read, not be so quick with his eyes, and have a willingness to throw the football downfield. 90% of the throws that we've seen him make live those last couple of weeks of training camp, and even going back to the bowl game last year, have all been checkdowns. There's a big difference between a top team and the Oregon State team that he beat in the Sun Bowl last year. Like I said, I have every confidence that he can go out there and beat Purdue and Miami, Ohio, and Louisville and all these other teams. But the question is, can he beat a ranked team? And the Steve Angeli that we've seen right now, no, I don't think he can. That's why you brought in Riley Leonard.
You don't get paid to win the games that you're supposed to. You get paid to be the difference maker, to win the games in the crucial moments. I don't think Steve Angeli can do that quite yet.
Yeah, Andrew says check down Charlie probably beats Clemson last year, but Clemson wasn't a top team. Like, that's a team.
I don't think Angeli beats him. The defense had us very well schemed last season. I don't think there was anything that was going to be done last season to win that game. It's just Notre Dame was completely out schemed in that situation.
Yeah. I mean, Notre Dame did it to Clemson the year before at Notre Dame Stadium. Clemson turned the tables on them from that aspect last year. TD4ND asks if CJ Carr can beat a top 10 team this year.
I give him a better chance than Steve Angeli.
I would too. Again, based on all the things that I just mentioned, like the way CJ Carr reads the defense versus the way Steve Angeli reads the defense, the way CJ Carr keeps his eyes downfield going through his progressions.
There's just far more boom. Guy. There's far more boom in CJ Carr than there is Steve Angeli.
Right. There will be a 1,000-yard receiver and a 1,000-yard rusher for Notre Dame this season. In or out on that?
We are out on a running back over 1,000 yards, but we are in over for a receiver with 1,000 yards. Audric Estime had 1,300, and that included. That didn't include. That was in 12 games this season. I don't think that Jeremiyah Love will get even 300 less, because I don't think that's his style of game. I think that he will. They're going to work in more running backs this season. I don't think you're going to see Jeremiyah Love getting the type of workload, straight running the ball like Audric Estime got. Obviously, he's going to be used more in the passing game. But yeah, I don't see, and this isn't a negative thing. I just think the running back room as a whole is going to do what they're supposed to and be really good. They're just not going to have a guy over 1,000 yards.
Yeah. I thought that last year the carries might be a little bit more split than what they turned out being with Audric. Audric Estime turned into the workhorse, and a big part of the reason he turned into the workhorse is because of the load that he split the year before with Diggs. And I don't think that either one of these guys, Love or Jadarian Price, the two front, guys at the top going into the season, are going to be a workhorse type guy necessarily because of the skills that they have. I agree with what you're saying. I think it's going to be more split up, that we see something like even the year before, Estime was obviously up there around 1,000 yards, but I think it's going to be closer to a couple of guys with like 8 to 850, something like that. And obviously Love is going to get his share of passes. And I think Jadarian Price is going to get his share of passes as well. The 1,000-yard receiver thing, I mean, that is the magic question. I do think they've got a better chance there because of the quarterback and because of the way they upgraded that room with the experience that they've got. So, and because of Denbrock as well. But it's like we keep thinking that we're going to see better wide receiver production. It just hasn't come the last couple of years, though. No, I mean, that's fair, Michael. He says Audric Estime doesn't have the talent of Love or Price, but again, I don't think we're necessarily going to see those. Like, they're both very talented, but I think that they're going to split the carries as a result because they're both so talented. And I don't think that we're necessarily going to see one over the other. Now, the question could be with the schedule that they're going to play, are they just going to run roughshod over some teams? It just, have the ability to just run it down people's throats. DK says we in with a question mark.
I think he just entered the chat. We in.
We in. All right. The Irish offense will be as good, if not better, than the defense this season. We in or we out on that?
We are out. It is hard to be. Here's how I look at this question. Will Notre Dame finish higher as a top-ranked? Where will they finish nationally higher as a defense and an offense? I think the defense, in comparison with the rest of the college football landscape, will finish higher than what the offense would. And I just think that's because it's hard to have a really good offense, or you know what I mean, in college football, because of there are a lot of other good offenses out there. I think it's easier to have a good defense, and I think Notre Dame's defense, I think it's harder to have a really good defense, and Notre Dame already has a really good defense, and they have a really good defensive coordinator, and so I think it's harder to have a really good defense. So
what do you say? So which is it harder to do? Settle your own argument. You're arguing with yourself.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm saying because of the way college football is played, I think it is easier to be an offense that scores a ton of points and that sort of stuff.
Okay.
And it's harder to have a good defense, but Notre Dame has a good defense.
They already have a good defense.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. It felt like there was this, I don't even know.
The offense won't be better than the defense. I'll just very much clarify it.
I agree with that. So I have to be out on this. Again, the offense I think is going to be very good, but as somebody pointed out, the defense is going to be a top 3 defense. And while the offense is going to be good, there won't be as good or better than the Notre Dame defense. Brian Kelly will retire before getting fired in the next 3 years at LSU. You in or you out on that one?
Ooh, that is a tough one. I'm gonna have to say everyone loves to drop their Brian Kelly hate, and I'm here for it. I think that they have made their commitment to Brian Kelly, so I'm gonna have to say I don't think he's gonna get fired.
No, but will he retire before getting fired?
No. I'm gonna have to say
I'm out on that one as well. I don't think he's gonna retire. He's gonna take every bit of that paycheck that he can.
Can't walk away from that money.
That's right. He will ride it till a bitter end. Okay, this is another one that we got from all these that we've done so far have come from the Champions Lounge. College football will move completely to the NFL model / SuperLeague. We in or we out on that one?
So what is meant by like the NFL model? Like more
basically
so
they're
contracts.
Saying break away from the NCAA, and that like there was this whole thing about a Super League that was proposed about a month or so ago. The story came out, and basically none of the athletic directors or conference commissioners wanted anything to do with it.
So it'd be like the NFL's minor league system.
Well, they're not saying that, but what they're saying is like the Power 5 kind of breaks away, and there would be like a relegation type system, and there would be like these divisions split up around the country and all this different kind of stuff, and TV contracts.
So more like soccer. That's how soccer usually is.
Yeah,
regulation and while I like the concept, and I think that would be fun, because at that point you just level everything and basically say the good programs get to stay, the bad programs you play other bad programs and hope to be promoted. Essentially, right. I think that has a lot of potential, but I'm just gonna have to say we out.
The problem with this again is the TV contracts that have already been signed. Like there's a lot of money that's riding on that right now. So what benefit is there to the SEC or the Big Ten to give up what they already have between the new playoff contract and their regular season TV contracts, and essentially give that up and reshuffle just to bring more teams in and give other schools bigger pieces of the pie? Again, could it happen in 10 to 15 years? I don't doubt it, but I think that any major shift like this is more like 10 to 15, 20 years away than it is 2 to 5 years away.
Yes.
Could happen down the road, but I don't think it's imminent by any means. Fill in the blank. Reggie Miller was one of the announcers for Wednesday's New York Knicks Indiana Pacers playoff game at Madison Square Garden. Miller probably fills blank that Knicks fans were chanting obscenities at him at the end of the game.
He feels no type of way about this because I think he still loves it. It probably gives him that feeling back to when he was playing, and we all know how he felt about it when he was playing. So, I think Reggie Miller is just one of those guys who's always naturally competitive, but also a guy that's just naturally just genuine, good guy. I don't think a lot of things get to him, bother him. I just think he's a real mentally sharp type of guy. I think he has more fun out of those situations. You know what I mean? He'd get more of like a chuckle and be like, come on, I can't hear you, kind of egg it on a little bit more. I think he relishes that type of stuff.
I think that's exactly it. I think he revels in it. I mean, I think that's why he was there. That's why TNT wanted him.
They strategically let him do that.
Absolutely.
Series.
Absolutely. Now, I did see some detractors in the media today, kind of like, well, it went overboard and all that kind of stuff. But as Michael says, he loves it. He loves to be hated. Like, he was wishing that he wasn't there taking photos with Spike Lee at the side of the court and Ben Stiller before the game. He wishes that he was still out there on the floor and Spike Lee was, giving him the business like it was 25, 30 years ago, whenever that was. That's what he wishes. I mean, he loved it. That's why they sent him there. Again, I was just saying there were some people who were kind of taking shots at TNT's coverage, and I think some of it is legit because who was the Knicks player that got hurt in the first quarter? Yeah, Brunson was hurt, and like all the attention was on the Reggie Miller, Knicks Pacers rivalry, and it took a while to find out exactly what was going on with Brunson. There needed to be more attention on that from the sideline.
I think that's funny in itself because there was literally, I think I saw on Twitter, at least it was his hand, then it was his foot, then it was his knee, then it was he took a hit to, maybe the wrong area and was just not feeling well for a while. And so there was and I don't think it was ever released what actually happened, but, he comes out at halftime, has a tremendous second half, and really, is the reason why they won. I thought the funnier moment during this thing, when the fans are chanting F you, Reggie, is when Josh Hart comes up to him and takes off his headset. He goes,
right, and tells him.
that they're saying this, right? I love that. I thought that was hilarious.
Right. And that's, like the person who I saw saying that, that the whole thing went overboard and nobody cares because this is something that happened all those years ago. I mean, obviously Knicks fans still know who Reggie Miller is. If they were yelling F you, Reggie Miller, chanting F you, Reggie Miller at the end of the game. So there's still something there, from both sides. So I thought it was funny, though. So Ethan Strauss from The Athletic told Bill Simmons on his podcast this week that WNBA teams should just use the nicknames or the mascots of their NBA counterparts to give them better brand recognition. So, for example, instead of the Indiana Fever, which the WNBA team is called, they should just be called the W Pacers. Do you buy or sell that?
I actually really like this because I do believe if the WNBA and the sport of women's basketball is set on growth and expansion, I think that this is something that keeps the fans engaged because you can do so many different deal packages, where you're saying, hey, you get Pacers tickets, but that also gets you, 5 tickets to women's games throughout the season. And I think it goes well for, merchandise and fans buying apparel, that sort of stuff. And I think it going back on the expansion thing, the WNBA wants to add more teams. I think it's perfect because if you have the counterpart, it's kind of like a pilot program, right? Like for a WNBA team that doesn't exist, let's say in Minnesota, well, the links are there. San Antonio, or let's just say, like you can use it as like a pilot system to see how it's going to go and be like, okay, maybe not. And then maybe you try a different city. I just think it allows for expansion and kind of like the hand holding throughout the process.
This is something that I hadn't even thought about before, but I think when you look at it, it does make some sense because of what you talked about between branding. Like, think about college, for example. Like, it's Notre Dame men's basketball, Notre Dame women's basketball. Like, in Tennessee, they call them the Lady Vols or whatever. But like the the nickname is still the same. They're all the Fighting Irish or the Vols or the game, whoever it happens to be, the Trojans, regardless of what the sport is in college, everyone goes by the same nickname. So I think that it would make a lot of sense because of what you're talking about. Like the branding, I think, would be more consistent. And when like when you're talking about merchandising and just name recognition and the whole thing, I think it would actually make a lot of sense. I know that there were some who kind of shouted it down because, sexism and, whatever else. Can't everybody just have their own thing? I just think it would make sense rather than introducing this new name that people are still, if they're casual fans, they're not going to be as familiar with than the name that has been there for a while, the brand name that's been in those cities for a lot longer.
Yeah. I just really think, I don't think that the players would really care about the sexism, because if you introduce, more merchandising, more ticket sales, more, sales, you know what that means? The players are getting paid more. I don't think they care about, what their team name is or, where they're located. They care about playing professionally, developing their career, and quite honestly, making as much money as possible, right? So if that means that you're in the same city as these other organizations and you're attached to them and you're sharing the same arenas, whatever it might be, as long as it's making money, I don't think people really are going to care.
Yeah. Michael says that the WNBA needs to play during the NBA season. And I think one of the problems with that is availability of arenas and just logistically having all those things going on at the same time. I think the NBA likes having them separate, and the WNBA, like the way they do their draft with players coming right out of college and then rolling into a season into the summer, and they're trying to take advantage of the summer months when there's not as many things going on and things like that. I think they like it that way. And because the salaries are lower as well, it also gives those players the chance to go overseas and continue to play, overseas in Europe and some other places and make even more money playing basketball. So I think they kind of like the way the setup is right now. Because you're also not playing at the same time as, women's college basketball. And then you're also talking about fewer TV opportunities if you were playing at the same time as the NBA and college basketball was going on.
Yes. I think it mainly has to do with TV opportunities.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Well, we're going to wrap it up with that. Jesse's got some traveling to do. He's heading back to South Bend tonight. So safe travels. Great questions today, by the way, in the all-new We In or We Out format show this evening. And again, the only way that you can participate and get a question in on the We In or We Out is if you post the questions on the new Champions Lounge board. So great questions tonight. Had a talk with the boss, and it sounds like he wants us to maybe do this a little bit regularly. So keep your eye out on the Champions Lounge for your chance to submit more questions. And as D-Rock says, hit that like button. We do appreciate it. Have a great night. We will be back tomorrow, 5 o'clock on Friday with a rapid fire show. All three of us will be here once again. Me, Jesse.
I'm out.
You're not going to be here.
We out.
You're not going to be here in the living room.
Nope.
With,
I got a Top Gun without you.
Oh, okay. All right. Sounds good. That is coming up for sure. Have a great night. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 5 o'clock on the Rapid Fire Show, IB Nation Sports Talk.